Have you ever felt broken, defeated, or like life has taken everything from you? What if I told you that God specializes in restoring the impossible, turning your pain into purpose, your failures into breakthroughs, and your lost years into a future full of hope? The moment you trust Him, miracles begin, faster, bigger, and more beautiful than you could ever imagine. My friend, every one of us knows what it feels like to look back on our lives and whisper, "I wish I could go back." Years lost to fear, years lost to wrong choices, years lost to heartbreak, years lost to people who didn't value us, years lost to addiction, depression, guilt, or regret. And sometimes the enemy whispers, "It's too late. You've wasted too much. Nothing can be restored." But today I want to declare a truth stronger than your past, stronger than your pain, stronger than time itself. God restores, God rebuilds, God renews, God returns what life, sin, and suffering tried to steal from you. And He does it in ways you never imagined. Life can leave us feeling empty, defeated, and convinced that what we've lost is gone forever. It may be years of missed opportunities, broken relationships, failed dreams, or painful mistakes. Sometimes it feels like life has taken more than it has given, leaving us with wounds that seem too deep to heal. But here's the powerful truth. God specializes in restoring what seems lost forever. In the book of Joel, God made a profound promise to His people after years of devastation. He said, "I will restore to you the years the locusts have eaten." Notice He didn't promise to restore moments or days. He promised to restore years. Years of loss, years of struggle, years that felt wasted or stolen by circumstances beyond their control. That is the depth of God's power and His ability to redeem what feels irretrievably gone. Restoration is not about reversing the past. It is about transforming it. Every tear you've shed, every failure you've endured, and every season of pain can be repurposed into strength, wisdom, and resilience. There is no pain too deep, no failure too great, and no season too wasted that God cannot redeem it. When we allow Him to work, the impossible becomes possible, and what seemed lost forever becomes a testimony of triumph. Consider the story of someone who lost everything in bankruptcy. At one point, they had nothing. Their business collapsed, their savings were gone, and they were burdened with debt. Many would have given up, convinced that their life was over. But through perseverance, faith, and the guidance of God, they rebuilt their business, regained financial stability, and emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. The years of loss became the foundation for a future filled with blessing. Or think about someone recovering from a serious illness or accident. Their health, their independence, even their dreams might have been taken from them in a moment, but through treatment, support, and trust in God's healing, many reclaim not only their health, but also a renewed perspective on life. They walk away stronger, more grateful, and with a purpose more defined than before. Even relationships can experience this restoration. Divorces, estrangements, or years of misunderstanding can leave scars that feel permanent. Yet countless families have experienced reconciliation, forgiveness, and renewed love, proving that God can repair what seems irreparable. The world often cannot explain how restoration happens, because it defies human logic. But God's ways are higher and His timing is perfect. What seems lost forever is merely waiting for His touch. The pain of yesterday does not define your tomorrow. The mistakes of the past do not dictate your future. When God steps in, restoration is not just about what you regain. It is about who you become in the process. Stronger, wiser, more compassionate, and equipped to inspire others. So if you feel that life has taken too much from you, remember this: God restores. He restores the years, the opportunities, the dreams, and the joy that have been stolen. Trust Him with your brokenness and watch Him transform what seems lost forever into a story of hope, triumph, and undeniable beauty. One of the most powerful weapons the enemy uses against us is shame. Shame whispers in our ears, convincing us that our past defines who we are, that every mistake, every failure, every wrong choice permanently labels us. It tells us, "You are too broken. You've gone too far. You've wasted too much time." And when we believe it, we stop moving forward, trapped in guilt, regret, and despair. But here's the truth. Your past may explain you, but it does not define you. Every person carries a story filled with mistakes, failures, and moments they wish they could erase. That is human. But God's power lies in taking broken stories and turning them into testimonies of redemption, hope, and transformation. Your past is not the conclusion of your story, it's the opening chapter of a new beginning. I once met a man who had lost 15 years of his life to addiction. 15 years filled with pain, broken relationships, and lost opportunities. He told me he felt like the best part of his life was gone forever. He cried as he shared his regrets and fears, but then he surrendered his life to God. He chose faith over despair, obedience over shame, and action over stagnation. The change wasn't instant, but it was undeniable. He got sober, he reconciled with his family. He opened a recovery center to help others trapped in the same cycle of addiction. Today, he's not only living a full life, but actively restoring hope and freedom to hundreds of people. He told me, God restored more in 5 years than I lost in 15. His past did not limit him. It became the very platform for his greatest impact. This principle applies to all of us. Maybe your story includes broken relationships, failed ventures, missed opportunities, or painful losses. Maybe shame has convinced you that it's too late to pursue your dreams, too late to forgive, too late to love yourself fully. But God's power is greater than your past. He can turn pain into purpose, failure into fuel, and setbacks into stepping stones. Consider historical examples as well. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, yet he emerged to lead a nation and inspire the world. J.K. Rowling faced poverty, rejection, and despair before creating one of the most beloved book series in history. Their past did not define their futures. They were the launching points for extraordinary stories. Your story is not over. Every day you have a chance to begin again, to step into God's plan, and to allow Him to write the chapters that have yet to be revealed. Your broken past is not your prison, it is your prologue. God can redeem, restore, and rewrite what seems lost forever. So, no matter what you've been through, no matter how broken you feel, remember this. Your past is not the end. It's the beginning of a new story, one filled with hope, healing, and a future far greater than you can imagine. Life has a way of making us feel like restoration and success are slow, painful processes. After loss, heartbreak, or failure, it's easy to assume that rebuilding will take years, maybe even decades. We think it will take a lifetime to recover what I've lost. I'll never catch up. But here's the incredible truth. God doesn't just restore, He multiplies, and He can accelerate what we think will take a lifetime. Take the story of Job. He was a man who faced unimaginable loss. His wealth, his health, his family, even his reputation were stripped away in a matter of days. To any human observer, it would have seemed impossible to recover, and yet, when God stepped in, restoration came, not gradually over decades, but with divine acceleration. Job received double of what he had lost. His blessings were multiplied beyond his imagination. His story reminds us that God's timing and methods often surpass human expectations. What we think will take years, God can accomplish in months. What seems impossible to restore, He can renew abundantly. Sometimes God restores slowly, like the sunrise, gradual, steady, and full of beauty when it finally rises. Other times, His restoration is sudden, like lightning, swift, powerful, and unmistakable. But in both cases, the result is complete and transformative. The key is to trust His timing and recognize that acceleration often comes after seasons of preparation, struggle, and perseverance. Modern research also supports this principle in human experience. Psychologists have found that individuals who undergo major life shifts, whether it's a new job, a move to a new city, or a renewed purpose, often grow faster than during their normal years. A sudden change can accelerate learning, maturity, and achievement, just as God accelerates blessings and restoration in our lives. Grace allows for exponential growth, turning years of waiting into months of progress and turning moments of faithfulness into lifelong impact. Consider real-life examples. A single mother who struggled with debt for years suddenly receives a job opportunity that provides financial stability and long-term growth within months. An entrepreneur who faced repeated failures discovers a breakthrough idea that multiplies his impact and revenue far faster than years of struggle could have. Or a student who faces repeated academic rejection finally secures a scholarship and mentorship that accelerates their career in ways they never imagined. These are modern-day illustrations of God's principle of acceleration. What you thought would take 10 years, God can accomplish in 10 months. What you assumed would take a lifetime, He can do in a moment. The lesson is clear. Do not limit God by your expectations. Do not measure His power by your timeline. The same God who restored Job can restore you, accelerate your progress, and multiply what seems lost or delayed. So if you are in a season of waiting, be encouraged. Trust that God is at work behind the scenes. The delays, struggles, and seasons of preparation are setting the stage for a restoration that may surpass everything you ever imagined. God can accelerate what you thought would take a lifetime, and when He does, the blessings are complete, abundant, and beyond your wildest dreams. Pain is universal. Every person has experienced it in some form: heartbreak, betrayal, failure, disappointment, or loss. When suffering comes, it often feels pointless, cruel, and endless. We ask, why me? Why now? What is the purpose of this suffering? It's natural to question life when everything seems to be falling apart. But here's the profound truth. God wastes nothing. Every tear you shed, every trial you endure, every wound you carry has a purpose. The heartbreak you endured, the betrayal you survived, the loneliness you walked through, and the failures that humbled you, they are not meaningless. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose." Notice it doesn't say some things or only certain struggles. It says all things. Every pain, every setback, and every hardship is being woven into a tapestry of purpose that you may not yet see. Modern psychology even confirms this principle. Studies show that individuals who overcome adversity often develop resilience, empathy, and wisdom far beyond those who have never struggled. Trauma and challenges, while painful, can become catalysts for growth. People who have faced major setbacks often find themselves better equipped to handle life's complexities, more compassionate toward others, and wiser in their choices. In other words, your suffering can become the soil from which strength, empathy, and insight grow. Consider real-life examples. A woman who lost her spouse unexpectedly might feel broken beyond repair. Yet years later, she uses her experience to counsel widows, becoming a source of comfort and guidance to hundreds. A man who faced repeated business failures and bankruptcy may eventually become a mentor for entrepreneurs, helping them avoid the mistakes he endured. Their pain became their platform, their struggles became their story, and their wounds became their ministry. Even within our personal journeys, small trials carry profound lessons. The failure that humbled you teaches humility. The loneliness that challenged you cultivates self-awareness and empathy. The heartbreak that broke you strengthens your capacity to love deeply and authentically. God is using every tear to shape you, to mature you, and to prepare you for the life He has designed for you. Your pain is not a grave. It is not a permanent scar that defines your life. It is the ground where God grows new life. It is the fertile soil where strength, character, and purpose are cultivated. What seems like suffering today may be tomorrow's testimony. Every tear is a seed, every trial is a lesson, and every heartbreak is a stepping stone towards something far greater than you can imagine. So, when life feels overwhelming, when sorrow presses in, or when despair tempts you to give up, remember this: your pain has purpose. God sees every struggle, understands every wound, and is orchestrating it all for your good. Trust Him. Lean on Him. Allow Him to turn your suffering into strength, your tears into testimony, and your pain into purpose. Restoration is one of the most beautiful experiences a human heart can encounter, but it rarely begins when we think it will. Many of us wait for perfection, for the right moment, for a sense of worthiness to return to God. We think, I need to fix myself before He will accept me. I need to prove I'm good enough. But the truth is, restoration doesn't begin with perfection. It begins with direction. The moment you turn back to God, He starts rebuilding what has been broken in your life. Consider the story of the prodigal son. He squandered his inheritance, made reckless decisions, and wasted years chasing empty pleasures. From a human perspective, he had hit rock bottom. His future seemed ruined, his mistakes unforgivable, and his dignity shattered. Yet the moment he returned home, everything changed. He didn't return to shame. He didn't return to judgment or condemnation. He returned to celebration. His father ran to him, embraced him, and restored his place in the family. That is the essence of God's restoration: immediate, unconditional, and full of grace. The prodigal son's story teaches us a critical lesson. God's restoration is not earned, it is received. You don't need to wait until you have fixed everything. You don't need to gather the courage to be perfect. All that is required is your decision to return, your willingness to step toward Him, even when you feel unworthy, broken, or defeated. That single act of faith opens the door for God to rebuild, renew, and restore every area of your life. Modern examples reflect this principle as well. Consider people who have overcome years of addiction, financial collapse, or failed relationships. Often their turnaround begins the moment they surrender their struggles to God. A man trapped in a cycle of addiction may hit rock bottom and feel hopeless, yet when he turns to God for guidance and strength, doors open. He reconnects with family, rebuilds his career, and even helps others who face similar battles. Restoration begins not with human effort, but with divine direction. Even in smaller, everyday moments, this principle applies. A broken friendship, a strained marriage, or a neglected relationship can begin healing the moment you choose forgiveness and reconciliation. A career setback can turn into opportunity the moment you turn back to God for wisdom and guidance. Your return, your willingness to trust Him is the spark that ignites the restoration process. God's restoration is not about lectures, judgment, or proving yourself. It is about grace. It is about His power to take what is broken, lost, or wasted and turn it into something beautiful, meaningful, and abundant. Your return is the key that opens the door to restoration. Once you step toward Him, He meets you with open arms, ready to rebuild, renew, and revive every area of your life. So today, no matter what you have lost, no matter how far you've wandered, no matter how broken you feel, remember this: restoration begins the moment you return to God. Take that step. Open the door. Let grace do the rest. Human restoration is often limited. When we try to fix what's broken, we often patch up what remains, mend what's left, and restore what once was. But God's restoration works differently. He doesn't just repair what was lost. He creates something entirely new, something we could never have imagined on our own. Where we see scarcity, He brings abundance. Where we see brokenness, He brings beauty. Where we see endings, He opens doors to beginnings we never dreamed possible. God's restoration doesn't stop at the past. It doesn't simply undo the mistakes, the pain, or the losses. It expands your future. He gives you what you never had, opportunities you never expected, and joy you may have thought was impossible. Sometimes His restoration looks like peace where there was once anxiety. It looks like love where heartbreak once ruled. It looks like opportunity where failure had left nothing but doubt. It looks like new relationships where loneliness had kept you isolated. And it looks like purpose where regret and shame had taken root. Consider the story of a woman who faced betrayal in her marriage, financial collapse, and estrangement from her family. By human standards, her life seemed irreparably broken. Yet when she surrendered to God, His restoration began in ways she could never have imagined. Within months, not only did reconciliation begin with her family, but new career opportunities opened up, allowing her to achieve financial stability she had never expected. Even more remarkable, she discovered a calling to mentor others in similar situations, turning her pain into purpose. What seemed like an ending became the beginning of a story richer than she could have written herself. The Bible is full of examples of God's unimaginable restoration. Job, who lost everything, didn't just regain his wealth, he received double. Lazarus, once dead, didn't just return to life, he became a testimony of God's power. Peter, after denying Christ, didn't just receive forgiveness, he was entrusted to lead, to inspire, and to transform the early church. In each story, God didn't simply restore the past. He created a future far greater than the original. Even science reflects this principle. Studies show that people who overcome major life disruptions often experience accelerated personal growth, resilience, and creativity. Trauma and loss, when met with hope and faith, can serve as catalysts for breakthroughs and new opportunities. In other words, the very moments we perceive as final can become the launching pad for God's extraordinary work in our lives. You may feel like your best chapters are behind you, that the losses you've suffered define the rest of your story. But God's voice says something different. I am just getting started. He is capable of restoring not just what was lost, but giving you a future filled with more peace, more love, more opportunity, and more purpose than you could imagine. So no matter how broken, lost, or hopeless your situation seems, trust God to restore in ways you cannot yet see. His restoration is bigger, better, and more beautiful than anything you could create on your own. Your past does not limit your future, because God is ready to do what only He can do. Restore your life in ways that surpass every expectation. My friend, you may feel behind. You may feel broken. You may feel like too much time has passed. But hear this, God has not forgotten you. He has not abandoned you. He has not given up on you. The years you lost, the tears you cried. The moments you regret, God will restore them. And when He does, it will be greater, deeper, richer, and more beautiful than anything you could imagine. What you lost was real, but what God is about to give you is greater. Your wasted years are not wasted anymore. God will restore them.